I was always interested in martial arts. They were just really interesting moves. Of course, I was in the era of Kung Fu on TV with David Carradine. Thought it was really interesting. The reason I got into Taekwondo was sort of the only choice. I came from a small town in northern BC. The only martial arts that were going on there at the time was a Taekwondo club. So I joined it, never looked back. Obviously, as a color belt, white belt, yellow belt, green belt, I wasn't thinking about anything other than just training, having fun, doing the martial art that I was in. I think it was probably right around when I got my first degree black belt that I became interested in teaching, and the reasoning was because I wanted a place to train. I had moved to Edmonton, Alberta, and I couldn't really find a good club anywhere. The nearest one that I could train with that I felt was good enough was about an hour and 15-minute drive away from where I lived, and I was training there twice a week. So I'd drive an hour and 15 minutes, train there for a couple hours, come back an hour and 15 minutes, doing that twice a week. I decided, it might be better if I had a place to train locally as well. So then I started to get together with the idea of opening a club, and I started off with 7 students, and again, just carried on from there. General Choi had a lot of seminars around the world. I attended as many as I could. Any in North America, I was there. And ultimately, some years I was 2-3 seminars per year. I also had the opportunity to train with General Choi during the filming of the CD-ROMs that we made originally. They became DVDs later on. I think that was one of the highlights of training, because I got so much information. I've got the film from the background, we've got the interviews with General Choi. There's a lot of it that has never been published. Some of it hasn't even been translated into English onto DVD. We've got the written translations, but it hasn't been processed further. And I think that was like 7 days with General Choi, intensely going over every pattern, all 24 patterns. That's probably one of the biggest highlights, not to mention the fact that we immortalized him in that week as well. He gave a lot of advice, a lot of behind-the-scenes information, if you will. A lot of times, and there was a number of black belts that would have this opportunity, but going to his hotel room during lunch, during a seminar, or even going out after seminars, even sometimes after tournaments and such, a lot of instructors had the opportunity to just listen and hear things he said about techniques, about Taekwondo, about martial arts, about the future, where he wanted it to go, and things like that. There's so many things that he has said. One of the ones I have written down, and I stuck it in my locker, and it's still there today, and it was just something at the time that I thought was a neat thing. General Choi said, Taekwondo is not to learn how to fight, it's how to learn not to fight. And that's really interesting. We obviously train kick, punch, ultimately to kick and punch against an opponent, but if you never ever have to use it, that means you were successful. Yeah, I think Jiu-Jitsu would be the top of my list because of the joint locks, the flips, the throws, the takedowns, the holds, and things like that. There wouldn't be a lot of conflict with Taekwondo, which is a stand-up striking art more than anything. I think they would be synergistic together. They would help each other out. You have the long range with the legs, close range with the hands, and then of course right in there with the Jiu-Jitsu techniques when the hands are right on and you're very close to your opponent. So I would say Jiu-Jitsu would be the one I would be interested in. In fact, I have done some, but to actually train with it, that would be the martial art of choice for me. There actually has been some Taekwondo guys in there, and they've done, the 2 that I'm thinking of, have done very well with their techniques. I just can't remember the names right now, but there are some in there, and I don't know what style of Taekwondo they're from, but I would have to guess Chang Han style, the general style, just because of the hands up. With the WTF, they don't have their hands up. I mean, obviously they could train it, but I would think something would be more natural that way. What do I think about MMA? I don't like the title, mixed martial arts. I mean, it is a mix of martial arts, but generally speaking, you should not be a jack of all trades and a master of none. You should master one at least, and then add to it to balance it out. The concept of martial arts is to not to get into conflict, is to be peaceful, even though we do violent training. So by taking it into the ring and intentionally being violent against somebody else isn't really martial arts. Hey, I love the sport. I love watching it. I think it's fantastic. There's awesome techniques in there. Technically speaking, it's not really a martial art. It's many martial arts. It's mixed martial arts, and it is kind of going against the philosophy of the martial arts where you're not supposed to fight. But it's still an exciting sport. I enjoy it. Time, opportunity, training. I was into tournaments big time. I went to open tournaments, karate, kung fu tournaments. Of course, the Taekwondo tournaments that we went to. The few times I actually lost twice. I lost once in sparring and once in patterns during that time frame. I actually got 18 out of 20 gold medals that I could have captured. But the two times that I lost, it was due to completely loss of focus. One time my parents were in the audience. It was the first time they'd seen me, and I was trying to see them in the audience while I'm sparring. Bad idea. Got hit a little hard. That was the end of it for me. The other guy just picked the points on me big time. In patterns, I was on my way to the gold medal, and I knew it. The judges knew it, and I looked at the judges and smiled at them. They smiled back, and I forgot my pattern, so I lost. And it taught me to focus and never assume that you're going to win, because there's no guarantee. You have to train all the time. You have to train a lot. You have to train for competition. You can train just for the art. You can train for self-defense. You can train for both. You can train for the sport, the competition side. I think that training for the competition side is going to improve everything else, because it's fairly intense. It's the one time that you actually have an antagonistic opponent, someone who's trying to beat you. That is the closest you can get to reality in our style in the gym. Our training partners, of course, are going to be aggressive towards us, but we know who they are, and we know they don't really mean to attack us, so we're practicing technique. In a competition venue, they're trying to take that medal away from us. There's a goal there, and they're aggressively trying to win that match, whether it's patterns or sparring, or even board breaking, or any other kind of competition. So I think that to compete is to get close to reality, even though it's not real. We all know that. But it gives you that illusion anyway, and it certainly gives you a mindset of something to lose. I have so many motivations, from teaching the shy kid, the introverted kid, to the person with 2 left feet. People that have issues, have problems, the people that are out of shape and they get into shape, the goal getting for all the students, for everybody that joins. I really enjoy the fact that when I teach people techniques and they can go to a competition and they do well, not necessarily win, but do well, and they come out of it feeling happy with what they did, whether they win or not. And you have to remember, in competition, I mean, ultimately one person wins. He gets the gold medal. Everybody else in that division doesn't. So that means everybody else really lost. Even if you get a silver or a bronze, there's only one winner. So there's more losers than winners. But losers win more than the winner does, because you are going to get more out of losing than winning, in my opinion. It's always nice to win, of course, but it's hard to stay on top. When you're the winner, everybody's gunning for you. I really enjoy the fact that my students go to competitions, enjoy the competitions, and I can look at that and say, you know what, I had a hand in teaching them. Obviously I didn't teach them 100% because I have other instructors, but ultimately it's my techniques, it's my knowledge that is coming down, filtering down with everybody else's take on the moves. But it's a proud moment to say, hey, that guy's from our club and he won, or he did well. I enjoy that. You have to love the art, period. If you don't love the art, it becomes a job, it's about the money. If it's about the money, you're not going to have the integrity behind the art to teach it properly. And there are a lot of clubs out there, a lot of clubs that do it for the money. And I have students coming in all the time, and it's almost sad the amount of people that come and join our club from other clubs, other styles, but mostly Taekwondo, because they're going to stick with the Taekwondo style. They come in and they are some belt level, green or blue or even sometimes black, and the lack of knowledge that they have, and then the horror stories that they have about how much money they paid and they had to buy this and buy that and buy the other thing. It was obviously they came from a club that didn't care about the art, it cared about the money. If you want to teach, you should love it first. You want to devour it. You want to do it 7 days a week. You want to do it 24 hours a day. And you know what? If you're looking at it for a business, if you love it and you're passionate about it, the business will be successful. Yeah, I was bullied. I mean, it was. I don't think you're ever going to get rid of it. A lot of people are making a really big deal about bullying, but you know what? It happens even after you're a kid. You get into the workforce, you're going to have bullies as bosses. Fellow employees are going to be bullies, and it's different. They're no longer pushing you into lockers or you know, dragging you around the school, but there's still bullies out there. You need to learn how to deal with the bully. You don't always have to fight. Maybe in the younger ages you do a little bit more, because it's sort of the primitive set of the human being is a violent creature, but you still have to learn how to deal with it. And I think the biggest safeguard to bullies is confidence. And confidence is what you learn in martial arts. You develop that confidence. You have the ability to deal with the situations, and every situation is different. There's no one way to deal with it. There's the violent bully. There's the bully that's just, you know, calling you names all the time. There's the bully at work. There's so many different kinds of bullies. You have to have the confidence to deal with them. And confidence is learned through martial arts. I think that anybody that trains in the martial arts is going to develop confidence and ultimately be able to deal with situations, which is really the important factor. Of course, if it's a physical confrontation, eventually the martial arts will teach you how to defend yourself, and that in itself will deal with one style of bully. But I think that's a minority bully. I don't know what the percentage is, but there's more bullying out there than physically bullying people. So you need the confidence to deal with the situation. Yeah, I mean, as a younger guy, of course, you're in situations, you're in places where you shouldn't be. Alcohol is probably involved, and in my situation, it was at parties, it was at nightclubs, things like that. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and that's just the way it goes. Well, the name of our club is Phoenix Taekwondo. Phoenix is a rebirth in fire. You can't kill the Phoenix. I mean, you can, but he comes back, bursts into flame, rises from the ashes. So it's sort of our trademark for the club. So I thought, well, you know what, we should probably do some stuff with fire. I like the fire concept because it does distract you. It distracts you in a couple ways. One, you're afraid of getting burnt. Two, there is movement there on the board that normally there's no movement. You got the flames moving. So you've got two distractions, and it makes you focus deeper. I mean, you have to focus when you're doing board breaks, especially if it's a power break or something like that. If you don't focus, you're going to screw up the break. So with the fire going there, it makes it harder to focus. So in my mind, anyway, it's a harder break if it's on fire. The same thing goes if you're breaking other materials, like ice, glass, which I would never do. I just wouldn't attempt the glass. The fire, though, is the sort of the mark for Phoenix Taekwondo, which is the name of my club. And I think it's just a cool way to demonstrate our ability and sort of give name recognition for the club. No. That's the one. Yeah, actually Mr. Hutchison was with us, white belt, all the way up into his black belts. When he moved away, we still kept in touch through email, through the phone. We trained together a few times. He would visit Edmonton again. Now that he's made it up to his 4th degree black belt, I've been following his career, if you will, from a distance. he's done well, and I'm really happy and proud that he's got his 4th degree black belt. It's interesting as a senior instructor. I mean, you don't get 200, 300, 400 senior belts. You get 200, 300, 400 students, and out of that you get a few senior belts. Every club's different, but to have some 4th dans that were originally training with me, and I mean I've got a few around, but it's a real good hallmark for me to say, you know what, I'm doing something right somewhere. Even if guys move away, they continue training and they continue growing, and that's excellent. So yeah, Mr. Hutchison, and he's still got a connection to our club. He still shows up here and works out with us once in a while. Not as often as he should, but he still does.